Now, in this presentation, we are actually going to show you how to do these things with pure XML. So, we will start with inserting XML. So, for this, what we are going to do is I'm going to show you a script where we are going to create a database, and we are going to create a couple of tables, and we are going to start some information and some XML data. Let's say we have these two tables that we are going to create the items tables and the client table, and you can see that the last column with the XML data type for the items table, and the same thing for the clients table, and the last column, which is called contact, is defined with the data type XML. Both tables have one column defined with the type XML, which happens to be the last column on each table. It does not have to be suggest you to post right now, because what we are going to do is to run a script. We recommended that you download the free online book, which is called Getting Started with DB2 Express C, and it also comes with a separate file that contains exercises. So in those exercises, basically we are using the same files for those exercises in this presentation. So now recommendation was that you should download that file and unzip it into a directory like this one. In this case, we are going to take a look at a quick lab 14a, and we are basically going to work with this file that is part of quick lab presentation, and go to www.ibm.com db2 express, then look for the link of the free online db2 express C book. Click on that link, download the book, and download also the exercises. Then unzip them into this directory. Then once you come back after, then you post, we will take a look at this file called table creation text. If I open that file with notepad, you will see that first we drop database mydb. This is just to clean up the environment, just in case you already have this database created. So we will create a database. We are creating it as Unicode. That's what it says, UTF-8. This is not really required to support pure XML. It version 9 it was required. Then we will connect to the database, and we will create the tables that I mentioned before. The items table, where the last column has an XML data type, and the clients table, where the last column has an XML data type as well. And then here, this is the way we are talking about inserting XML data into the database. So there are two ways to do it. One way is shown here, which is basically using an SQL insert operation. We are simply using an SQL insert operation where the XML is passed as a string, as you can see here. So when you are passed this column, then DB2 will say, okay, this is really an XML document, so I'm going to parse it. And basically what it means is to take this XML document and store it in a parse hierarchical as a tree. Now, if for any reason there may be situations where maybe the XML looks very complicated and DB2 cannot detect that it's XML, then you can add a function called Xml Parts. For example, if you put Xml Parts, and you have to read the exact syntax, but basically you have to put something like this. I'm just going to give you kind where you invoke XML parse function, and you explicitly are telling DB2 that it needs to parse this string because it is an XML document. I'm just not going to make any changes here. Okay, that it's the first way. It's just to use the simple SQL insert operation and create the XML as a string, and you may have to invoke the XML files import utility that was discussed in the previous lesson of these e-learning courses. The difference from what I taught before is that we'll first provide the source for that import. In this case is file client del, which is in the same directory, and then we say of del, so this is file clients of del, which is of delimited format, so it contains delimited ASCII2, and then we say XML from, and we put where is the XML. Basically we're saying where the XML files that we want to insert is using the import utility, and we are going to insert XML, but The XML is stored in separate files which are in this directory. In the one that I highlighted, continue with the syntax, insert into clients, etc. So that is the syntax of the import. It has an import from where is the XML, and then I continue inserting into this file. The same procedure we are going to use for the items table. So we say items del, it's another file, the XML is also on the same directory, and we are going to insert into items. So let's take a look at the directory in more detail. So we have these same files that I mentioned. Sorry, these are clients del and items del. They are the ones in the script table creation text. So let's take a look clients del. If I double click here, this is the content of the clients del file, and well, del means delimited. It's a delimited ASCII2 file. So you see that the delimiter is a comma. Each of these values will go into a column into the table. So this is for another column, this is for another column, and then there what we have here where it says xds file equals, this is actually like a pointer from this file to another file. Where is that? As you can see from the client 3227.xml, so this is a pointer to this file client 3227.xml, which if I open it, so then this is the file client 3227.xml, and as you can see, what we have is the XML document for this particular file. You have the different elements, and this is the root. So that is the XML document that is in this file client 3227 XML that I showed you here. So basically what we are doing is that we are going to insert this row. The first 1, 2, 3 columns are relational, and the last one is to store the XML. The same thing with the rows, second row, which is this for the first column of the row, the second column of the row, the third column, and this fourth column of that row, but this is the XML document. So let's continue here. So this is the same information. I will show you items.del, but it's basically the same idea. This I already showed you right from the script using an insert statement. This is an SQL insert or using an import, and I have highlighted it in blue, the directory where the information is. So the first one in blue, clients del, the second one in blue is where the XML document are the same thing for the other import. Okay, that is how that insert works, but let's actually run. Let's close this file and let's actually run the script. So how can you run the script? This is table creation. I'm not going to save the changes, and let's run this script by, let's see, it is open from the control center. There are two ways to do it. You can open the command editor by clicking the fourth button of the control center, or typing db2ce from the click OK on this button here to open. And basically you have to go to the directory here to find the file table operation text. You can go here, says OK, and then find the table. Creation text, I can go there, say OK, and then I have to find table creation.text, and then I say OK, and then what happened is that it will open to execute. Note that this target has to be blank because that means there is no connection and there should be no connection, new database. So that would be one way to do it. By clicking this, it will start running, but I'm going to show you by invoking the command window or the Linux shell. If you are using Linux and I'm going to type db2cmd, which is already there, I need to open the command window, and from here it's the same idea. You can go cd and then you can change the directory. So now I'm going to list the directory, and now here you have label creation talking about the tools and scripting. Anyway, from here you can do db2, which is a way to execute the script, and then I press enter and it starts executing. So it first drops the database. In my case, I had it before, that's why it says drop was successful. In your case, in my, there is an error because it cannot find the database. MyDB are trying to clean up environment, then I was going to create a database MyDB. In this case, it is creating it as Unicode because it says code set UTF-8 optional starting with DB2 version 9.5. Creating a database sometimes take 1 or 2 minutes because then again, as I explained before, when I was talking about the DB2 environment, when you create a database in DB2, you are also creating some metadata information, and there is also an auto configure utility that is run to take a look at your system trying to configure DB2 parameters so that the parameters are set to good values for good performance. Then it connects to the database, start creating the two tables, and then it finishes with an import and export. So let me just take a look up there. After the creation of the database, you see the created table was successful, then it connected to the database successfully, and then it created the first table successfully, and the second table, the client's table, successfully. Then is inserted that XML successfully using the SQL insert. Then it didn't import, as you can see. Sorry, going too far. Anyway, from here you can see it did not import for the first file. From here it says that it reads 6 rows and it inserted 6 rows, so you have to pay attention to this. It inserted 6 rows, so that's good. That was for the first import, and this is for the second import. It says that it's inserted 4 rows, so that's good, perfect. So this script ran correctly, and now we invoke the control center. We can take a look here to MyDB database that we just created. Let's take a look at the client's table, and let's see the contents of this table. And here we can see the same values. You have John Smith. This is the one that we inserted using. If we go back up here, you see here it says insert into etc. John Smith gold etc. That is the first record, John Smith. We take a look at the XML. We click on those 3 buttons. You can click the expand all button. Well, that expanded already, and that's the address etc. Texas 00112. That is what we had in the PowerPoint. Texas 00112. The same thing for the other ones. Let's take the other ones now. So the other records will be here. We have Ella Kimpton. Let's take a look at this in the XML expand all, and then we can see, for example, here is client address. That's 385-401 Julia Avenue, City, San Jose, etc. If we take a look at the actual file, which is already closed, let's see which is here. So as you can see here, the information is the same information, 5 Sir Julio Avenue, San Jose, California 95116, etc. So that's just to show you that information database. Now, what's the big deal about this? Well, now that is inside the database, I can perform queries on this. Actually, before I close, you can click on source view. You can also see the source view. You can copy paste from here. You can collapse all, expand all. You can do find and so on. These are legends of the little graphics that are provided anyway. So as was saying, the good thing now that is in the database is that you can perform queries not only for the XML subdocuments for a little parts of the XML. You can also combine relational information with XML information, and I'm going to show you some examples in the next few slides. This now, and again, this would be other records. These are after all taken from the files of the import and corresponding XML files. So let's close this and let's go back to the presentation.